Morocco have been awarded the Afcon after CAF decided to overturn the result. So the question we have today is this justice or does this question the integrity of the tournament? Today I'm joined by Walid, who is of course Moroccan and of course a fan of the Moroccan national team. And obviously he's joined me today to kind of give his perspective on things. I feel like he has a lot of strong opinions. I think he feels that justice was served, which I'm not so convinced about, but I'm gonna land the question to you straight away.
Okay.
Do you think justice will serve?
Oh, I mean, it's not even a question to ask. I think justice was definitely
Mm,
served. I think there's a number of factors in this, and what I can say though is I understand. I'm not going to sit here and be in denial. I can understand the frustration,
mm,
right? I can understand the other side. Now, if I wasn't Moroccan, could I understand why everyone's outraged? Like, let's say somebody, I see millions of people on Twitter and stuff that are commenting that has never watched an African Cup of Nations beforehand have watched
mm,
this particular narrative or the single match or the single clip, and I understand what they see. I can see why this is blown out of proportion, right? Which we'll go into very soon. But
yeah.
all I can say is I can see the other side. But what is true and what is 100% a fact is that justice was served. And I've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I've been commenting on so many videos like, you'll see what happened, because I knew this was always going to come out.
Yeah. In terms of when you say like you knew that this would happen and you knew that justice would be served, is it based on the rule, the law of
Not
essentially?
necessarily. Not
Mm,
yeah. Listen, we have to go off the rule because it is football, right? Like, you're not allowed to
yeah,
handball because of X, Y, and Z. We all follow the game of football and the laws, right? Otherwise, it's
yeah,
just going to be chaos, and we all follow a particular rule in order to make a game of football. Now, I knew there was always a rule or law in place. However, I think what people didn't understand from the other side is the emotion took over. What I'd like to ask, Liban, from your perspective, firstly,
yeah,
before I can digest
yeah.
what I can say, what you said that you don't agree, or can I ask, like, what is your point of view quickly in terms of why do you not feel it's right, or why do you not feel that this shouldn't have happened?
Okay, obviously to give context, because there might be like viewers that maybe never watched the final, or this might be their
Hmm.
first time coming
Hmm.
across it. So for those that don't know, of course, the Afcon final was played back in January between Senegal and the host nation Morocco. Uh, Senegal went on to win in extra time, 1-0. There were a lot of controversial decisions towards the dying minutes of the 90 minutes. Senegal, you could say, maybe prematurely had a goal disallowed, but referee decided, you know, it wasn't a goal. And then on the other end, Morocco get a penalty, which, in my opinion, and I've said this publicly, I do think it was a penalty. I do think it was
Okay.
soft, but ultimately, I do still think it was a penalty. I do think he done enough to bring Brahim Diaz down.
Yeah.
Brahim Diaz then obviously, decides to protest to get the
Hmm.
penalty. Referee decides to give the penalty, which then Senegal obviously walk off the pitch in protest. Again, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
Okay.
Senegal walking off the pitch as well.
Okay.
But then there was obviously a delay to the match, 15-minute delay. Senegal then come back on the pitch due to obviously there was a lot of people pleading, the referees, the officials from both sets of teams pleaded for
Hmm.
Senegal to resume the match, which then obviously Brahim Diaz famously, misses that penalty and then
Hmm.
goes into extra time. And of course, Senegal get the winner. My thing is, right, it comes back to your question. I feel like if that rule is in place where a team walks off the pitch and it should be in that article where I think it's article 82 that says
Yeah.
that if a
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
walks off the pitch, it's a 3-0 forfeit. I feel like then the game should have ended there. The
Hmm.
moment Senegal walk off the pitch,
Hmm.
that's the moment where you then decide, okay, your team has walked off the pitch. You have now forfeited a match. The match is now 3-0. Morocco have won, and now Morocco are the winners. I think it should be set and determined in that moment. My issue is the referee, same way the referee decided to award Brahim Diaz the penalty, it's his decision. It was also his decision to continue with the match. Morocco continued with the match. Senegal continued with the match. The match was then obviously concluded. The result was determined, and
Hmm.
Senegal ended up winning that game.
Hmm.
So for me, I think the rule, the article in that moment, in my opinion, obviously I'm not saying this is what should happen, but in
Yeah.
my view, I believe that that rule should be overruled. That
Hmm.
article should be overruled because the referee has decided to take matters in his own hands. He's decided to carry on the game. Both teams have agreed to carry on. I didn't see, and correct me if I'm wrong as well, and maybe the viewers might do it as well in the comments. I didn't feel at the time that Morocco were pushing for any sort of forfeit or anything like that. I think they just wanted to take their penalty and basically essentially get that match over and done with. Obviously, with the impression that they felt that they were confident enough to score that penalty and end up winning the game. At that point, I didn't see it. You even see Morocco officials pleaded with Senegal to carry on with the game. So I didn't sense that, Morocco wanted that game to be ended or wanted a forfeit result. And so I don't know, it feels a bit reactionary. I feel like because you lost the game and obviously a lot of emotions are tied to it, now it's almost like a reaction to say, oh, we're going to appeal and we now want that result. So that's my opinion. That's where I kind of stand with it.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I can see that point of view. The thing why I disagree for certain aspects. Now, I think what I want to bring it back to is kind of the narrative that everyone's talking about. And I think what I need to kind of bring up, maybe that you don't see or maybe you haven't heard, is before the tournament started, there was a narrative that Morocco was going to cheat, right? There's going to be corruption from Morocco because Lacazette, who was our kind of prime minister of the Moroccan FA, is very close with the CAF Federation. Now, what everyone needs to understand that every president is close to the CAF Federation. Everyone has some sort of person on board. Like the disciplinary, for example, had Senegalese president on the board, right? So this narrative that Morocco just has a hold of CAF is absolutely ridiculous. Secondly, before a ball was even kicked, this huge narrative of there's going to be something that's going to happen. People are already pushing that agenda, right? Now, I know, both of us know that every single week in the Premier League, La Liga, whatever league, there's always ridiculous VAR decisions or something's crazy. I mean, as a Liverpool fan as well, the amount of decisions I've seen that goes against us when we were challenging for the title against Man City were ridiculous. I mean, the kick in the chest against McAllister, so many onside decisions that we should have got and we didn't get. There were so many decisions that was absolutely ridiculous to the naked eye. We was like, this is awful. We shouted for corruption here and there because we didn't trust certain things, but we would never, number one, walk off a field. And I bring it back to kind of African Cup of Nations because this narrative of constant, like Morocco's going to get some. Now, there's certain decisions I agree that we shouldn't have got, but nobody sees the decisions that Morocco didn't get. There was a challenge, there was a 2-foot challenge that should have been a red card. Morocco should have had 2 penalties they didn't get. So, but because we are the giant, we're the favourite, with the host, we got to the semi-final of a World Cup where, we are the number one name in the sport almost. There was no other way but to bring it down. So in order to do that, it was the David and Goliath almost. Like, how can we bring a team that's already up there down? So this narrative of look what they did, look what they did. Now, I agree, CAF's refereeing is absolutely awful, but this isn't this year. The only reason it's so blown out of proportion is because African Cup of Nations have never been watched by so many people. Every single year, Liban, I mean, I'm not too sure if you watch African Cup of Nations. There's an awful decision.
I went to Morocco. I was in Morocco.
Oh, did you? Sweet.
I was there. Yeah.
In every African Cup of Nations, there's an awful decision. You can just go back to 2016 when Tunisia should have got a clear penalty and the referee was running around and the Tunisian player started booting the referee. Like, this isn't new to African Cup of Nations. It's only new to the new narrative because people haven't watched African Cup of Nations beforehand. So it seems bigger than it is. But in reality, the decisions that Morocco got, let's say, are far smaller than decisions that have happened in the past. I mean, Senegal, people forget, Senegal got banned from African Cup of Nations once because the fans jumped on the pitch and started fighting because they didn't agree with the decision. Again, this isn't something new. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because the day of the final, there's already a narrative in place that if Morocco get any sort of decision, that something's going to happen, right? Which means that we didn't dare to get a decision. Now, do I agree with the decisions that happened in the last moments, right? What I like to do is break down each phase of play. So let's talk about the Hakimi one. Do I believe Hakimi got fouled? Absolutely not. I think that the game should have carried on. The issue that happened there is we see that in the Premier League every single week. Maybe not now, so Arsenal win the league in that way, but beforehand, if you touch a defender and it goes down, or when a defender's running back to goal and you touch him and he goes down so easily, boom, the referee blows it. It's so in the favour of the defender. So when he blew it, I wasn't that surprised. It's not a shocking decision. It's not a corrupt decision. It's one of those that's so annoying because we see this week in, week out. Now, everyone switches off. They score a goal. Senegal's going mad because everyone switches off. But if you did that in the 23rd minute of the match, nobody talks about it. The issue that we have here is because that happens 30 seconds later, which you agree with, we get a penalty decision, which you agree with is a penalty. So when you break down the phases of play, one that, okay, is a debatable. Should have happened? No. Do we see it every week? Yes. If it happened on the 23rd minute, would anyone be talking about it? No. But is it because it's so close together that you don't agree with it? My issue is because a certain manager, the Senegalese manager, didn't agree with it, he decided I've built this narrative. There's been this narrative throughout the whole tournament. So what I can do now is show to the public that we're going to walk off the field. We look like it's the ultimate gaslighting, right? I'm going to do a action which is injustice in the game of football, especially in a final with these many eyes. I'm going to get everyone. He's waving everyone off. He's saying that it's done. When you're in a boxing match, I've used this analogy before. If in a boxing match, the minute you throw in a white towel, it's out the referee's hand. The referee can't. He just stops it. Everyone knows it's done. You've thrown in the white towel. The minute he's thrown in the white towel, he walks everyone off the pitch. It takes at least 20 to 25 minutes before they actually come back on. Now, my issue I have with this is if he didn't walk off the field, we missed the penalty. Let's say we missed this penalty and they go on to score it. I guarantee there wouldn't be a single Moroccan moaning about this. The issue is the minute you walk off the field, you have 20 to 25 minutes break. So mentality-wise, you've switched off. If you've ever played football and you finish a game, you can't play football after 15, 20 minutes because mentally your dopamine drops, your adrenaline drops, you're mentally checked out of the game. This chaos is going on. And then what you want to do is after 20, 25 minutes, when you guys are regrouped in the change room, hyped yourself up like, oh my God, we've actually got a chance here to come back on. And apparently, there's theories about the missed penalty, whatever the case is, but you've now hyped yourself up where you are the underdog. You've come back on where you had no fighting chance to a fighting chance. Your mentality as a Senegalese player is far greater than a Moroccan who's in this chaos around your home fans. We've won it. We've not won it. We've won it. The referee has actually signaled to Hakimi, if you watch some of the clips, like, I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it. He actually says in VAR, it's the end of the match. We're going to call it. And then Hakimi and everyone's begging. And again, that's our fault. We should have just walked off the field as well. But again, stupid Moroccan players accept long. We want to back on.
I don't think a single Moroccan player walked off the pitch. I don't think.
Which we should have done. What I'm saying is we should have done that if we wanted to do these kind of things. So anyway, the referee's like this, and we waited 20, 25 minutes. They come back onto the field absolutely buzzing now because there's a chance to win this game. Morocco's adrenaline absolutely dumps. And that's my issue with the game is whether the final happens, I don't care about the trophy. I don't care even if they say you didn't win the African Cup of Nations. My issue is I just care about the justice of you've stopped the game, you've let the adrenaline dump, there's chaos. Anything after the fact of that is false. You can't call it a game of football because I understand what you're saying. Well, we carried on and now it's the game of football. I understand that if there was a handball because it's still in the time of play. The minute you walk off the field, the game is ended. You've manipulated the game. A handball or a penalty or a free kick or pulling the last player down and we're waiting for a decision. You're still in that mode of a game, right? Nobody switched off. We're like, oh my God, there's going to be a decision here. The minute you walk off the field, the match has ended and it's a different phase. This is why I say when people say, oh, well, you should have carried on. Yeah, we did carry on, whatever the case is, but oh, you've won the African Cup of Nations like nothing ever happened before because we've never seen anything like this happen before either. So this is my argument. The minute you walk off that pitch and there's 20 to 25 minutes. Now, if they walked off and they walked straight back on after 5 minutes, I'll probably argue with Senegal, like, it's 5 minutes, you're still warm. But 20 to 25 minutes, I just think after the fact, it's difficult.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is valid in terms of like the psychology of like the sports psychology side of things. I think it's valid when there is a delay for that long. It does play on the mind of players. Maybe Brahim Diaz did feel that pressure because of the long delay and stuff like that. So I think what you're saying is valid. And in terms of the whole narrative of Morocco in the tournament itself, I mean, there were a lot of questionable decisions in a lot of big games leading up to the final, but being the host nation as well, that's not something new. And I think that you did make a point there. It's not new. You've seen it in the past. You're probably going to see it in the future where naturally the home nation, because of the home advantage, because of the home crowd, naturally get that advantage sometimes, especially when decisions are 50-50, it naturally sways to the home side. So I agree with you in that sense. That isn't something new. However, I do still feel like it happened. And you're right. It did create that narrative going into the final. And of course, there was a lot of talk about security issues with the Senegal fans and the hotel issue and privacy issue with training sessions. So I think all of that kind of built that narrative of Morocco being favoritized to sort of win that match. But in terms of the actual point you're saying in terms of the psychology, I agreed it might have an impact, but I don't feel like that's something that you can measure. It's not really something that's tangible. My issue is, if that's how you're feeling, if that's how Morocco players are generally feeling, if that's how the manager's feeling, if that's how the officials are feeling, you make that decision there and then to then walk off the pitch. The rule is there, the article is there in place. If Senegal decide to walk off, you then say, we're not going to continue. We're happy to take our forfeit. The match should conclude there. My problem is the moment, the referee decides to continue the game, you can see there's no real appeal from Morocco. Senegal then do come. Not that I agree with it. Like I said, I've said this publicly. I don't agree with Senegal walking off the pitch. However, it doesn't negate the fact that the match still continued. The referee decided to continue. So once that happens, for me, that should be overruled. I think that should be overruled. The match continues. You got 120 minutes. Both teams have, obviously you missed the penalty, but both teams have the opportunity to win the game. That's why I mean it's gonna kind of lead into my next question, which is, do you think Senegal, given in terms of what happened, but do you think they won the match fair and square in 120 minutes of football?
Well, that was literally so in 120 minutes, they didn't win it fair and square. And I want to kind of go back to what you said in terms of whether it has now in retrospect, and we're all calmed down, it's been 2 months later, we can say, Morocco should have thought about this. Mate, when you're in that chaos and things are going around, and we've never seen this before in a final, especially to this height of level, right? In a final of African Cup of Nations, Europe, or Cup America, World Cup, we've never seen a team decide on their own accordance to walk off the field. We've never had this beforehand. So to start saying, Morocco should have made it, it's never happened beforehand to say, okay, this is what we should do. When you're in that heat of the moment and everyone's looking around like, do we stay, do we not, do we go, like, there's no, when a penalty happens, we all know that you wait until we see VAR and then we're not happy with the decision, we'll kick off after the game. We all know that because we see it every single week. What we don't see every week is a team walking off on the final. So in that heat of the moment, everyone's mind is like, what do we do? Like, no one knows what to do in that moment. So if we walk off, do we still get the trophy? If we walk off, are we still the bad person? If we walk off, does that mean it's abandoned? Like, no one knows what the next answer is. And then we're trying to ask the referee. The referee doesn't know why, because Senegal and the Senegalese manager took it on its own accordance to gaslight everyone, to be like, I'm going to cause this chaos and I'm going to put it on Morocco, on the Morocco and CAF to be blamed, when everybody should be looking at the Senegalese managers to be like, why did you create this chaos? I've said it 100 times beforehand. If Senegalese players just got the penalty, we missed it, and they scored and they never walked off the field, I guarantee it, I put everything on it, Morocco would have cheered them off the field and said, fair play. Like, it's our fault. We blame the manager, which we've done beforehand in the last African Cup of Nations. It's our fault. Why do we not close the match? Why do we not score a goal? We blame ourselves. We do it a number of times. But to have it manipulated and to have this phase of play that no one's ever seen before, it's hard to argue like, well, you should have done this, because no one's ever done this before either.
Yeah. Do you think the rule, do you think the rule is more important than the result? So meaning what I'm trying to say is essentially, if Morocco had won in extra time, let's say Morocco wasn't in extra time, do you think this decision would have still been made?
Can I ask you a question to that? I know I hate when people ask a question to a question.
It's good, yeah.
We all watch, I don't know if you watch boxing or UFC, whatever the case is. If you saw a fighter, again, absolutely, it was a 50-50 match. Like, everyone's going blow for blow. And then one team's like, do you know, I'm not happy. I feel like it's the home nation. This boxer's going to get the decision. I'm going to throw the towel in, right? This coach throws the towel in. It's this chaos. Like, oh my God, it's the championship. No one knows what's going on. So the fighter goes back to his seat. He's thrown the towel in now. We're celebrating. We don't know what's going on because it was such a close match. Like, why have you thrown the towel in? Like, what's going on? He throws the towel in. We go back to the seat, and then all of a sudden that coach goes, do you know what, he's healed now, I want to continue now. So the referee's like, oh, I've never done this before, okay, so let's continue. They continue. The other person that was actually favourite to win loses, but then we sit down, we review things, the evidence comes into play, like, oh my God, like, this is injustice, like, this shouldn't have happened. What do you think should have happened? Like, this guy's getting beat up, he's thrown his towel in. What do you think to that?
I mean, fighting is different, because I think fighting is, the rule is, if you throw in a towel, match is done.
But this exact same rule here, it's exact same rule.
But this is the thing, and this is my issue. I don't have any problems with the rule being in place. I think that if the rule is there, if that's the law, it is what it is. But my thing is, and this is where I kind of have an issue with it, is where I felt at the time, in my view, that Morocco were desperate to continue the game because of that spot kick. Because that is a golden opportunity, right? It's the last kick of the game. You score that, you win the trophy. So in that moment, I don't think any fan, I don't think any Moroccan player wanted that match to end. They wanted that to take that penalty because they felt that that was their opportunity to then obviously win the game. So they're not even, I don't even think at that moment in time, anyone's even entertaining the idea of, like, you know, not finishing that game, because Morocco thought, we got the penalty, we can score this, we're going to lift that trophy. So that's where my issue is, because once you've decided collectively that you want to continue this match, I think that is when the referee, and also obviously that's the referee's decision as well. I think in that moment, that rule should be over, or that article, whatever it is, that law should be overruled in that moment. That's where I have a problem with it. I just feel like Morocco have every right to feel disgruntled in terms of how that all played out, but ultimately you still finished the game. The game was concluded, the result was determined, and Senegal ended up sort of lifting the trophy, winning the game with the trophy. My thing is, it feels and this is my question. It feels reactionary. It feels that we lost the game. We're not happy with the way things had happened in that game, so we're gonna appeal now and get that overturned. I don't think Morocco do that if they win the game. That's where my issue. I don't think this is even talked about if Morocco win that game.
Well, of course, because the decision is different, right? If Morocco win the game, we wouldn't put forward because we lost the decision. The issue I have is the manipulation towards it. It has an effect towards the player. Like I said, when you walk off the field for 20 to 25 minutes, you said you can't measure it. But again, anyone that's played the game to a certain level, whatever the case is, you can see it does say it's impossible not to measure it because of the effects towards it. You've gone through this chaos that's never happened before. You've gone through this adrenaline dump, which I'm sure sports science can come out and be like, after 20 minutes, 100% you're going to get a dump in this. Physically, psychologically, spiritually, whatever you emotionally, everything dumped at that moment in time. There was no positive. There was no net positive for Morocco. There's nothing apart from the penalty, which again, you could say manipulated it. For me, I say everything that happened to that point was fair play. Senegal had a couple of chances to score in the game. They scored amazing. The minute that you walk off the pitch and you don't come back on for 20, 25 minutes, anything after the fact, I feel like even if we lost 3-0 after the fact or we scored the penalty, the fact that we missed the penalty and everything happened, it almost proves to the point that this affected the players, right? You can't be like, well, Senegal won and, if you come back on the pitch, that's it. But then you can't just say, you can't blow over what had such a detrimental effect towards the players. People keep forgetting it was the Senegalese. If you want to be angry at anyone, be angry at the Senegalese manager for walking off. Now, if Morocco did score the penalty or didn't score the penalty, that has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that they walked off the pitch and now anything after the fact is an effect. It's not in the same line as the same match. It's almost like two different matches. If it was in a court case, which it went to and the evidence would provide, it shows that there was two different games almost, because now something has altered the course of what was going to happen. You've affected psychologically, I've mentioned this throughout the whole thing, psychologically, whatever the case is, towards what will happen by the end of this match. Now, anything in between is different to what would have happened.
No, I think the sports psychology aspect. I'm a big I'm kind of into sports psychology. I do believe that what you're saying is valid. It's just that I think it sets a dangerous precedent now, because I think it kind of opens a Pandora box. Because if results can be changed days after, why even continue playing the game? Why even continue playing the match if Morocco can then just decide, okay, you know what, we're just going to appeal it anyway? It's almost like we'll try to win the game. If we don't win the game, we'll just appeal it anyway and still win the game. That's how it kind of feels.
Can I reply to that? I want to echo what you're saying, but on a higher degree, right? I want to say what you're saying is perfect, but what I'm saying is, imagine now everyone's going to be like, well, if it's not even about the end result. What now is like, if you walk off the pitch, now is going to we can't walk off the pitch now, because if we walk off the pitch, we know for a fact that we're not going to get this result if we go and win it. So now we're not going to walk. We have to see this game out in fairness. That's what it does. So I'm agreeing with you. Now, if you walk off the pitch, you have now put it into yourselves to allow it to go to a decision where it's not in your hands. And that's what football is. When we play 90 minutes, we see it today. I don't care if it's the worst decision in the world or you don't agree with 100 decisions that happen. Mate, we see decisions every single week where I absolutely hate. The minute the referee blows that whistle, everyone runs to the ref and starts arguing after the fact, after the whistle's blown. What you can't do is decide a football team takes it in his own hands to be like, no, I want this to be off my basis and how I want it to end. Now you're never going to see a team walk off the field, because we know, mate, if we walk off the field, they might give it to that other team. Let's just see it out and see what happens. So I'm actually agreeing with you where it's almost the opposite, where you think, oh, no, now teams are just going to argue. No, teams are not going to argue if there's a penalty in the last minute and they score it, because that's still phase of the play. But if you walk off the field, which is literally no team agrees with, I guarantee no team ever walks off the field ever again. And that's what should happen in football.
I get what you're saying. I think, you made a valid point there, in terms of, the different side of it to it. But I also feel like the referee also, I think there's one component we're not really talking about, which is the refereeing. I think the referee was really poor that day. I think he has to take a lot of responsibility as well. I think he's liable for a lot of what's happened. Coming to your point in terms of it stops that preventing teams from now walking off the pitch. I think also it makes referees realize if they see teams walk off the pitch, you end the match there. You don't allow the team to come back onto the pitch.
So now we've learned something. Exactly. Perfect.
Which is perfect. But then it still does, for me, again, it still doesn't negate the fact that that match continued. You know, I think that's the referee's fault for not, again, I'm not saying it's Morocco's responsibility to, you know, say that the match should be a forfeit. It's the referee's responsibility, and he should have realized, okay, they've walked off the pitch. Let's end the game. It's done. It's a forfeit. But so you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like
I get what you're.
There, but the game got.
But this is what gaslighting is like. You're looking at the referee. I'm telling you to look even deeper. Look at the person that's caused this issue. It's almost like somebody that beats somebody up, and then they get angry and they start lashing out. Like, why is he lashing out? Because I just got beat up, right? You're looking at the person that started the fire. People get leave Morocco out of it in this case. Go and speak to the Senegalese people or the Senegalese FA, and go and speak to the CAF. CAF are known to have awful refereeing. This has nothing to do with Morocco. My issue is people are attacking Morocco like, how you guys cheated. You did. Morocco stayed on the field. Morocco played the match. Morocco is not. We didn't have a referee that's Moroccan. This has nothing to do with Morocco. Go and get angry at the referee if you want. Go and get angry even more so at the manager that caused this chaos. If it wasn't for this chaos, Senegal might have won the match and nobody could have argued. Go and look at the people that caused this issue. African Cup of Nations have always been known to have awful decisions. This isn't something new. It's only new to new people because of the amount of eyes that was on this African Cup of Nations that has never been on beforehand. So and it's not even that bad of a decision if you go and watch like the last 20 years of African Cup of Nations. So you're telling me like, oh, I didn't agree with the ref. We get this all the time. This isn't anything new. The issue that we don't get is a team walking off the field. That's what's new here. So if anyone's going to be angry, go and be angry at the Senegalese manager. I'm telling you to go to the head of the snake. Don't go to in between.
The thing with I get what you're saying, and the thing with the Senegal manager, of course, he just, you know, him as well as players made the decision to walk off the pitch. Like I said, I've already made it clear. I don't agree with it.
Of course.
I think it was wrong. I think even if you disagree strongly about a referee decision or you feel like things are not going your way, and of course there was that narrative as well, I still don't agree with walking off the pitch. I think there are, like you said, consequences. There is a law in place for stuff like that. If your team walks off the pitch, you get forfeited, right? But again, there's only once he decides to do that, the team and him should be penalized by making it a forfeit, by continuing with the game. I always go back to that game in the Premier League when Sheffield United got relegated, and there was that controversial goal line technology where I think Sheffield should have got a goal. They didn't get the goal, and ultimately they ended up going down. And then, you know, they ended up appealing because it was a mistake. They still went down to the championship because at the end of the day, the match concluded, the season concluded. You still got relegated. You're still going to the championship, but they got compensated for it. So it was more like okay, we'll compensate you, and you know, because of the damages that were caused by it. But unfortunately, we can't reverse that or replay that match because the match was concluded. And I think it's the same sense here. I think the match was concluded. You can have, I think a lot of what you're saying today, I think is valid in terms of the psychology. It did feel like extra time did feel like a completely different game. True, that that is valid. But my thing is, and my stance, I still stick by this stance. The game was concluded. The referee still decided to go with the game. Everyone, you know, willingly carried on with the game, and the match was concluded. So for me, you stick to that result. Anything after that, if Morocco want to get compensation, or which they, you know, in terms of they want to look for compensation, they should get compensated for that. You know, if anything damages that were caused or whatever it is, I think that's something that they should sort after. But to change the result for me and then award the trophy that we also with our eyes Senegal lift and win the match, it just doesn't feel, for me personally, it just doesn't feel right.
Of course, because you see these, you live through the moment. I totally understand that thing. What I'm saying is, I'll even agree to the fact that maybe nobody wins the Africa. It gets nullified, right? I don't care about the trophy. I don't even want to see the trophy in Morocco. Moroccans don't care about this trophy. What we care about, the fact is the game was manipulated. What you're probably doing or possibly doing is open Pandora's box. You're saying, well, listen, guys, if you don't agree with the result, if your feelings are hurt, just walk off the field, regroup, and then go back out and see if you can almost alter the match decision. Because if you can and you win it and you roll the dice again and you win the decision, then come back on.
That's the referee. I think really that's the referee's decision. That's where the referee's gone wrong. I think if the referee should know the law, that's the referee's responsibility. I feel like they should know every letter of the law. They should have known, that referee should have known that day, because Senegal walked off the pitch, he should have said, you know what, that match ends right there. You've walked off the pitch, you've decided you're not continuing. Cool. We're going to make this a 3-0 forfeit. Morocco win the game. Game's ended. That's what the referee should have done. And because the referee didn't do that, simply the referee didn't do his job. So now we have the situation that we have at hand now. But my thing is, if the referee's decision was to continue the game, which everyone consented to, and everyone finished that game, which Senegal ended up winning, you stick by that result because that was your decision. Like we do with every referee's decision, whether it's right or wrong, we stick by it. We stick by the result. We stick by the decision. In this moment, it should have been the same. But my thing is that the fact that they overturned it, to me, is almost like, okay, so Morocco didn't really necessarily have to finish this game. They could have just lost this game anyway, and then, appeal later, and the result would have still been the same. I think I agree with what you said earlier. I think the best decision, maybe you could say, is maybe you make it void. Kind of like when Juve, you stripped the title. No one wanted that year. Maybe that's the best thing.
No, Morocco don't really get punished, but Morocco didn't do anything. Okay, let's say they didn't win the match. Okay, then you don't deserve the trophy. I accept that. I think every Moroccan would accept that. But you cannot say, oh, well, the referee said this, so let's just blame the referee. No, because there was an action. There was a punishment. Somebody stepped out of line. So you can't just say, well, we're going to fine them, because some billionaire would fine them like, let's keep the trophy. Listen. No, you have to do something. So you take the trophy away. It's almost like taking steroids with Lance Armstrong. They take his trophies away. You take the trophy away and nobody wins. I agree with that. Am I going to start arguing with the fact that we got the trophy? I'm not going to sit here and say no, because if you said nullify, I agree with it. If you say Morocco deserve, the main thing is that justice came out and said, okay, you interpreted the match in your way. You had an effect towards the match. That was my issue. That's what I want to focus. I don't care about the result. As long as you take that trophy off them and say, nobody needs to walk off the field. The referee wasn't up to the standards. It needs to go to court because this is a decision that we've never seen before. So we have to handle it in a way that we've never done before. So that's my situation. Nullify it, amazing. I agree with it. Give it to Morocco. Whatever the case is, Senegalese can't have it.
Yeah. Do you also feel like, given that you're a host nation as well, do you think everything heightens it even more? Do you feel like
when I started this podcast or this conversation, I said to you, it was the David and Goliath, right? Let's go back. Morocco got to the semi-final of the World Cup like no African nation has done beforehand. So what do you have when you see somebody doing something that no other African nation's done beforehand? You all gather together and be like, man, how has this guy done better than us, right? Then you get that. Then you see all the stadiums that were built that no other African nations has ever done beforehand. You host a tournament that no one's ever done before. You get more eyes than no African nations have ever done before. So you get all these things. I said Morocco are guilty of their own success. That's what happened. So you build all these things. You show off all the fancy cars. And then what you get is iron. You get people that are looking at you like, oh, man, how have they got all this? We need a way where we can tear these people down, where we was in the top 10 of FIFA. No other African nations are in that. So, and there's everyone, Thierry Henry was speaking about Morocco. There's going to be jealousy and hate. So what you do is the David and Goliath. They were favorites. They're the home nation. We need some way to crack it in. And this was it. And I was like, fair play. Like, they did what they needed to do. If anything, Morocco got a bad image to this in a way. But if anything, Morocco gained like a respect in a certain way, togetherness. So, yeah, as I mentioned, I think it's the alternate. What I don't like is if I have any issues with anything, I don't care if it's voided. It's the way the Senegalese manager acted and how it affects other matches in the future. That's my issue. Everything else you can speak about. That decision to do that there and then I think is one of the most disgraceful acts you can do in football.
Yeah. So do you think so for you obviously this is justice, but do you think this damages the credibility of the tournament now? Does it damage the credibility of Afcon? Going forward.
Look at Jamie Carragher 6 months ago. He made it, or 8 months ago. He made a comment about African Cup of Nations that it's not as highly regarded as the Euros or Cup of America. African Cup of Nations was always, let's say, a joke, right? To us, we absolutely love it. We can't wait for December, January, or the summer to watch African Cup of Nations because it means so much to Africans. But there was never been so many eyes on this beforehand. I think it was less than 100%. So let's say there was 2 million people watching, which is far great. There's only 1 million people watching beforehand. So we doubled the amount of revenue and the amount of eyes that watch. I think it was tripled at one point. And that was because of what Morocco achieved in the past. But African Cup of Nations has never, ever been respected because of the decisions that, I mean, I don't know if you remember in the last two tournaments, I think it was 2 tournaments ago, a referee blew the match at 86 minutes, walked off, then walked back on, and then walked off, and then walked back on. It was a Tunisia versus, can't remember, Ghana maybe.
Yeah, I remember he blew the whistle a bit too early.
86. So these are decisions. This isn't to us that watch African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's not surprising, but to everyone else, it's like, oh, this is a joke. Look, African Cup of Nations is a joke. It's always been like this. The issue is that we built it up to look like the Euros, the stadiums, the fans, the way everyone traveled around. And then we get the decisions that always happen in African Cup of Nations. But even worse, we get something that we've never seen in football. Obviously, it
Yeah.
damages African nations.
No, I you know what it is? It's disheartening because obviously I went out there. I did content out there. I went out there. I watched games out there. You know, the tournament for me was amazing, bro. And I've been to World Cups. I've been to other tournaments as well. I've seen like the infrastructure, the hospitality, the vibes were incredible. I was enjoying myself. Everyone was
And that's
enjoying
what city you
themselves.
went to.
Yeah,
What city?
I went
What city?
to. I was in Marrakesh and Casablanca.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I
so I
was in
went to.
That's where I'm
Yeah,
from. Nice, nice.
yeah. So I just went to those two because Tangier is too far. Agadir is a bit too far as well. So I'd stayed between those two cities. But I mean, bro, I think this was the first Afcon where I felt like, you know, we built African football to a level where it was, I feel like, yes, Jamie Carragher made that comment, but it was coming to a stage where you got a lot of content creators going out there. You know, there's a lot more content on African football. It was becoming a bit more respect. But I had friends, you know, that were not Africans watching Afcon. You know what I mean? They're actually going out their way to watch African, you know, the group stages.
Yeah. Same here.
They invested in it. I think it was the first one where you felt like football was more invested in the African Cup of Nations. So we, you know,
Can I ask you a
built
question?
Like, yeah.
If let's live in a world where the Senegalese manager doesn't do that, right? He doesn't walk off the pitch. We missed a penalty, and then not even that. Let's go to worst case scenario. The Senegalese manager doesn't walk off the pitch. Everyone's angry, like, oh, Morocco, look at them, the cheat, whatever the case is. Then we score the penalty. Oh, look, it's African Cup of Nations. They've always got dodgy refereeing decisions, right? It's always happened. We win the trophy, whatever the case is. Do you believe, let's say the worst case scenario, Morocco win that trophy on that penalty and they don't walk off the field?
Yeah.
Do you believe the conversations that we're having right now, or the way it's being portrayed, would it be less or more so than if they just what basically happened if they did?
In terms of, are you saying in terms of them walking off, or in terms of the match?
Yeah, which one do you think would have been like in terms of the way the world would have viewed?
No, I agree. I think Senegal coming off the pitch made the situation a lot worse.
10 times worse, right? Okay.
No, I agree. I'm not disputing. I've always said from the start, I've said this publicly, I don't agree with Senegal. I understand how they feel, because I understand. I mean, the context of it was they felt that their goal was wrongly disallowed at the other end. Minutes later, you could argue a soft penalty that was given.
Of course,
but
I 100% agree.
Yes, I understand from their mental side of things, their logic. I can understand why they feel like that, given everything that was building up in terms of the narrative around Morocco going into that final. So I can understand the frustration, the anger, decision to walk off, but I don't agree with it. I always said I don't agree with it. And I felt at the time it was embarrassing, because I think there's a lot of people that might be watching Afcon for the first time. They're tuning into the final. They turn on the TV and that's the first thing they see. That's the first representation of African football. So for me, to see that as an African, that's humiliating. I don't want people to be watching the final and that's what they're seeing is drama, not the good football we've been seeing throughout the entire tournament. You know, like it was an amazing tournament. Let's be honest. All the games were amazing. All the big teams made it through the group stages. Like it was actually an entertaining tournament. For it to end that way, I think was a shame. Let's put it that way. It was a shame. But this is the thing. When it comes to Afcon and when it comes to African football, that narrative, I feel like all that work that we did to kind of put African football in a good place and kind of build it up to a respectable standard, I feel like it's just all gone out the window. Because I think it would take a long, long time now for us to rebuild that reputation again. Every time now, the next one's next year. I don't think people are going to take it as serious. I don't think people are going to be as invested anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I think the damage, I think everyone kind of lost in this situation, to be honest with you. Again, I'm still going to stand by my stance. I don't agree with the overturning. Maybe there should have been a different outcome. Maybe you nullify it. You know, if you want to make it fair, maybe you nullify it. Maybe you say Senegal, you know, no one's won this Afcon, but to give it to Morocco, who were the host nation, it kind of feeds into that. Not that I agree with it, but it feeds into that narrative that everybody had built already, which was everything was favoritized for Morocco. Morocco were doing dodginess and whatever it is that they were saying. It feeds into that narrative now. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so, you know, ultimately you were still going to give them the trophy, you know? So that's where it's, for me, it's just, I just feel kind of like, you know, kind of disappointed about the whole thing.
Yeah, I get it. I'll end on this because that was kind of a nice summary. What I would say to that is the decision that happened in the match, I get and I understand your feelings, but football is not based off feelings. Otherwise, every home and away fans would get every single decision that they wanted. This is why we have laws and things in place and rules in the match, because we don't go off people's feelings or perspective. We go off what is the court of law, or what is the law on the pitch, right? So what I don't agree with you is saying I understand why they walked off the pitch. I don't think there's any case of walking off the pitch. I would never, if Morocco walked off the field, I would be so ashamed. I'd be like, what are you doing? Just play the match. It's fair play. I don't care if the guy got Luis Suarez, for example, if he hit over the net in the World Cup. I don't care if I see that with my own eyes. You stay on the pitch and you finish the match, and then after the match, we'll cause chaos if you want. We'll cause riots with the referee. We'll go to the court. We'll do everything we can. I don't. There's no justification of any feelings to walk off the field, and that's my basic issue. Do I agree that we get the trophy? You could say maybe not, maybe yes. Do I agree that the Senegalese FA should be rewarded this trophy? Absolutely not. Do I agree with Nullify? I probably think that's maybe the fair result. But what the main thing is here is Morocco didn't do anything. Morocco didn't go out there and get this trophy and did it in a certain way and slide. Morocco tried to play the game. These things happen. The Senegalese manager, and this is one person, took upon himself to do these actions. He should be punished. Senegalese should be punished as well with the court. Nullify it would have been the best result. But either way, if you can't, by law, you have to give it, then give it. That's my stance on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're gonna agree to disagree, but I
of course, I never expected it.
I do appreciate like I think you do say a lot of valid things. I think a lot of what you're saying is valid. I just feel like, again, it just comes down to the whole thing of once something's done, you can't now undo it. You know what I mean? You can't undo it. So that's where my kind of issue is, and I do feel like it's opened a Pandora box. I do feel like it's also kind of affected African football in a negative light. But I don't think anyone's won this situation. I don't think Morocco's won this situation. I don't think Senegal's won this situation. I don't think.
We definitely won. We've got an extra trophy.
I mean, you got your trophy now. You got your trophy
we won. Let me just say something to this is. I'm not here to whether this goes out to or yourself. I wasn't here to convince you to be on Morocco's side. It was never ever the case.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear your perspective though.
Yeah, and I think we're always married to our opinions. It was very hard for anyone to go into it with an open mind, especially when you've seen things like you said. We've seen Senegalese fans holding the trophy. It's very hard to separate ourselves from those opinions. I would never ever try and convince yourself to be like, no, look, there's no innocence in this in Morocco. Whatever the case is, it was the case of I just wanted you to understand why we had this perspective and why you should see it from this perspective. You can stick with your decisions, but you need to understand that it's nothing to do with Morocco. CAF, Senegal, absolutely, go and blame them. But Morocco just sat there, they got this decision, it's put upon us. Do I agree with the Nullify? Yes, but I just wanted you to see the other perspective. Hopefully this came across and people can understand.
One final question though, because you said, because I know you said Afcon, you said CAF, you said Senegal. Do Morocco take at least a little bit of accountability? I just want to get your thoughts on this. Do they take a bit some accountability in terms of what's happened as well?
So I'll need to put it back onto you so I can understand what accountability is. So you need to tell me, what did we do in order to take accountability for? And then I can admit whether it's true.
My thing is not being either vocal or making a decision there and then that you're not going to continue the match. And I know you might say that emotions, maybe at the time they're not thinking that, but for me is the rules there. And also, if you've seen a team walk up the pitch, you are then, allowed to then also say, okay, we don't want to continue this game. They've walked up the pitch. There were officials, Moroccan officials, trying to convince Senegal to come back on the pitch. So for me that's where also I feel like Morocco have to take accountability because you were pushing for this match to continue. If I had seen Morocco saying we don't want to play, if I still, all the players saying we don't want to play because they've walked off and they were vocal and they were visually you could see they're to play. Then I'll be like, fair play. At the time they were vocal about it. They didn't want to continue, but it didn't look like that. It looked like they wanted to take their penalty. And that's where my issue is. I think everyone's got some part to play in this. I do feel like Morocco do, I feel Senegal do, and I feel CAF do with the refereeing as well. I think it's a whole,
So I'll answer to that, whether we take accountability. I made a video straight after, I think the day after, on my thoughts on it. My first comment before I even blamed Senegalese was Morocco were in the wrong. They should have taken the boots off, taken the shin pads off and walked off the field. They shouldn't have spoken to anyone. They should have just walked down a tunnel. I said it was upon ourselves that we didn't walk off the field and make the decision for the referee to say, well, they've gone, I have to blow it now, right? I admitted it straight away that we should have just taken our shin pads off. What we did was we wanted to almost have this fair play and keep begging, which is it's almost in our DNA to be like, please, we just want fair play. We want to constantly host people, please. And then so I do take accountability in terms of the players. But again, when a situation happens, let's say two people are fighting, this is the reason why we have a court. You can't make a person have a mindful decision making and say, why do you do X, Y, and Z? This is why we go to court, because we're like, well, they weren't thinking correctly because there were so many scenarios. They're not in the right frame of mind to be making decisions, referee, whatever the case is. This is why everybody goes to court, because it goes to a third party that doesn't have any skin in the game or any
emotions
influence.
attached.
Exactly. So this is why a decision is made outside and not between the two parties, basically.
Yeah, I mean, on the technicality of it, it is like, if you just take out the emotions and everything, on the technicality of the letter of the law, it's the right decision to make. It's just what actually happened in the game. I feel like sometimes you need context, and I think what that law did and what that rule did, or what they decided, I think kind of removed the context of it. I think if you add the context, I think that's why a lot of people are very vocal about it. I think that's why a lot of people are upset. That's why people are like, you know, say, yeah, you know what I mean? I think it's because.
Well, I mean, can I just say one thing before we end here? Is people always talk about, you know, everyone watched Senegalese fans take the trophy, like, where there's a big chaos. Morocco did this and this. What people keep forgetting is, if the match did carry on and Morocco did score that penalty, what you've taken away is 50 years wait of the Moroccan fans and people waiting for that trophy to be held. There was a massive, massive open top bus for millions of Moroccans to go and watch. They've taken that away from us almost. Whether it's the Senegalese manager, whatever the case is, the influence of the game, that's what upsets me the most. I was in Morocco at that time. I went to a couple of matches in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. I went to all these games and I was so excited that if we score this penalty that wasn't influenced, imagine the way it wasn't influenced and we scored that penalty. Do you know what, like, forget everyone else. I don't care about anyone else. The memories that we could have got in that moment, I feel like we were robbed of that. And that's why I have so effect to it, because you will never, I don't think you'll ever understand, or especially as a Moroccan.
Now, well, Somalia are not in the Afcon, so
yeah, but as a Moroccan, I'm talking about of course. I'm talking about that 50-year wait, all that hate throughout the whole tournament, building all these stadiums, but getting to that degree. And after 50 years, we can enjoy that trophy. That's what hurts the most, that we weren't able to enjoy it. Now we get, like I said, I don't care about this because it's not coming the right way, where we wanted to be with friends, family, all the stadiums, the infrastructure, celebrating the right manner. And that's what hurts the most. Like, people don't see that side of it. And that's what I get annoyed by.
Yeah, no, I understand the emotional side. Of course, you also be Moroccan. I understand, like, from the Moroccan aspect, I understand the emotion that's attached to it. I just think the whole thing, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate. That's the best way to. I think the whole situation is unfortunate. I think it's like I said, no one wins this. I don't think there's any winners in this situation. I think everyone is losers, including, you know, us fans as well. But yeah, but listen, I appreciate your time, bro. Honestly,
thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me the platform.
But thank you so much, bro. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much.
And also, where can all the people find you if they want to find you?
Yeah, I usually have TikTok. I started like 6 months ago, just before African Cup of Nations. Like, do you know what? I'm just going to start this. I never saw any voice for Morocco in English. I see French and Arabic, but I was like, no one that speaks English. So I was like, do you know what? Let me just start this, and it just like went a bit crazy. And I went off to Morocco. So I got Baldwell. So Walid is my full name, but Baldwell. I do Liverpool at times as well, but Morocco's majority of my content. But yeah, 6 months ago I started this, and now I've kind of just gone in a different world. It's almost crazy to me. But yeah, Baldwell,
I came across your videos. I actually came across them while I was in Afcon as well.
Mashallah,
yeah, nice, so when I saw your page, so when you hit me up and I saw your page, I was like, oh, I recognize the face.
Nice, beautiful. Yeah, nice one. Appreciate it.
You do some amazing stuff, bro.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. And for those, obviously, for the viewers as well, let us know your comments on what your thoughts are in terms of the whole situation. Obviously, do you think it was the right or wrong decision made? Let us know in the comments. And until next time, peace.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.